My question concerns security guarantees. I would like to hear an answer from President Zelensky, but also from Mr. Alexander Stubb. So, European security guarantees, they are supposed to come into effect when a ceasefire begins. But after what happened in Poland, what do you think? Should they be reconsidered, and perhaps applied even before the ceasefire?
First of all, I would like to emphasize that it seems to me that Russia has heard the messages from America, Europe, and the coalition of the willing in general, as well as from countries such as Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, and Australia, with remarkable clarity and understanding. We remain fully committed to the cause, and both the military and political options for providing security guarantees have been carefully prepared and remain highly relevant and applicable to the current situation. One of the reasons for the reaction to Russia's actions in Poland lies precisely here. It is a fundamental understanding that we will support Ukraine. Furthermore, when we take into account the overall package in its entirety, it becomes quite clear that the security guarantees for Ukraine, along with all related preparations, will be built upon several fundamental and interdependent pillars. The strongest military force in Europe is Ukraine. We must find an effective way and the necessary means to ensure that the Ukrainian army remains fully capable and strong even after a ceasefire and once the war is ended, so that there is absolutely no opportunity or temptation for Russia to again threaten Ukraine's sovereignty and freedom. The second pillar is Europe. Europe must support Ukraine. There are many ways to do this: air, land, sea, intelligence, space, and so on. And we will do everything to ensure that Russia has no temptation to return to its old ways. Then there is the American safeguard. I firmly believe that 3 weeks ago in Washington, we made significant progress and achieved a great deal concerning the level and scope of American participation. But should we reconsider the initiation of these guarantees or related arrangements? In my view, now is not the appropriate time to do so. It is quite evident that everything will naturally fall into place once a stable and lasting peace is established. I would like to add one more point. It seems to me that the strongest security guarantee and the clearest example of Russia's strategic defeat under Putin will be Ukraine's membership in the European Union. In my opinion, this will happen sooner than it seems. So, if we want Ukraine to be strong and Russia to face defeat, Ukraine must become fully European.
Regarding security guarantees, your question was whether they should be provided before the end of the war, even before a ceasefire. I have answered. Exactly 1 year ago, when President Trump had not yet become the President of the United States of America in the autumn, we were in New York at a meeting. And we had a good meeting with him. I came to him and said that I wanted to show him the victory plan. In my view, the victory plan is to stop Russia now and prevent them from repeating aggression. Today, our security guarantees are based on principles. All the principles Alexander mentioned: a strong Ukrainian army, the presence of European partners, an American backstop, and reconstruction sanctions. The plan I presented was similar, but it was already based on what needed to be done immediately, without waiting for the war to end, so that the Russians would end the war themselves. It was based precisely on a strong army, and I asked President Trump to provide us with appropriate weapons, long-range weapons, which we would use solely for military purposes, only at the moment when Russia signals that it does not want to end the war and is not ready for a ceasefire.
той момент, коли Росія скаже, я не хочу закінчувати війну, я не готова на ceasefire.
Second, there was EU membership, meaning we consistently considered it necessary, but I believed it was important to set a date, in coordination with all partners, for what purpose?
В координації з усіма колегами поставити дату,
So that Putin would understand that this is an irreversible process.
зворотній процес.
This was important, right?
Так?
The third issue concerned NATO.
А третя історія була про НАТО.
We all understood that not only America, but some European countries did not support Ukraine's NATO membership.
Членство НАТО в
Nevertheless, I believed we needed to offer an invitation to NATO as a step, so that, as President Trump once said, we would have cards in our hands.
крок для того, щоб були, як казав колись
Unfortunately, we did not achieve this.
в руках. Ми, на жаль, не отримали.
In sanctions, there was an approach to sanctions that I think is very similar to what we share today, a sanctions package that is open and clear.
Про те, що є пакет санкцій, він відкритий і зрозумілий. Які
Which sanctions are lifted if Russia ends the war, and at what moment?
і в який момент. І
And
які
which additional
санкції
sanctions are imposed, total sanctions on the Russians, if they do not end the war?
вони не закінчать цю війну.
Because above all, if they do not end the war, what must the world do?
Закінчують війну. Що потрібен весь світ робити?
Simply reduce the money they spend on the war,
Зменшити гроші, на які вони витрачають,
reduce their defense capacity,
оборонку зменшити їх.
and
Максимально
minimize their capabilities.
ці їх можливості.
Therefore, security guarantees can be introduced after the end of the war, but certainly some measures could be taken even before.
Щось